you all here. It looks like we have a full house. And as usual, we will start the meeting with our chaplain prayer and pledges. And we have today Chaplain Gary and Marcella Jenkins to lead us in both.
Good morning, Mayor.
Good morning.
Good morning, Council. Good morning, everybody. Will you join with us in prayer? Precious Father in heaven, in the name of Jesus, we bow before you, the creator of heaven and earth, and we seek your counsel and your wisdom. We ask you to bless our city council, bless those who are working and laboring to enact ordinances that will govern this city and make this place a better place for people who live and work in San Angelo. We pray that you lead them, that you guide them, and that you give them the wisdom and the understanding that they need to take care of the business of the city in a way that will glorify you. And Father, we pray not only for the inhabitants of San Angelo, but we transcend around the world to Israel. And we ask that you preserve and protect Israel from all of her enemies, and that they will be able to put a stop to Hamas. We also pray for the innocent Palestinians who had nothing to do with the attack, that, Father, that you will protect your people everywhere. And, Father, we pray that the love of Jesus Christ will rest, rule, and abide now, henceforth, and forever. In Jesus' name, let everybody say amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you. We have three proclamations this morning, and the first one is our On Plein Air Texas Week. Do we have individuals in the audience to come forward and receive this proclamation? Good morning. Come on up here. Yep. In October 2023, On Plein Air Texas, or EPAT, celebrates its 10th anniversary as one of the premier outdoor painting competitions in the nation. Inspired by similar events around the country, EPAT quickly distinguished itself by celebrating the arts with a West Texas flair. Building on the inspiration from the 1920s Texas artist camps in Cristobal on the South Concho River, EPAT has emerged as a national leader in plein air painting competitions. Annually, 35 nationally and internationally recognized artists spend 3 days on private ranches before coming to San Angelo to paint. Their presence in our historic downtown, in the International Water Lily Gardens, and other distinctive locations allows community members and visitors to explore what it means to paint, quote, in the open air. The event attracts world-class artists who are thrilled to paint our authentic West Texas ranches, and locals who are also competing for significant cash prizes provided by EPAT sponsors. Their paintings capture the spirit of our city and of our heritage. A major fundraiser for SAMHSA, sales of these paintings directly contribute to the children's free outreach programs at the museum. 9 years of outstanding community financial support has allowed more than 70,000 area students to participate in a fine arts experience through the museum, many times hosted by EPAT competition artists. This competition is embraced by our community, where over 100 volunteers support the week-long event. EPAT brings national and international recognition to San Angelo, solidifying its reputation as a vibrant arts and culture venue. While EPAT is a celebration of outdoor painting, it also embraces its role in the fabric of our community and seeks especially to excite and expose our youth to the possibilities contained in the arts. The 10th year celebration of EPAT begins October 22nd with a week of special activities headquartered at Gallery Verde on South Oak Street, the Stampede Awards Party and Sale on Friday, October 27th, and the Saturday Paint Out at the Chicken Farm Arts Center. Culminate with the 10th year celebration party on Saturday at Fort Concho Stables, which is free and open to everyone. Therefore, I, Brenda Gunter, Mayor of San Angelo, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim October 22nd through October 28th, 2023 as En Plein Air Texas Week and urge all citizens to support this exceptional community event. Congratulations on 10. Would you like to speak? Would you like to speak? Yes.
We would quickly just like to thank the community for unbelievable support over the last 9 years, and we think this will be our biggest year ever. Bringing the arts to San Angelo, bringing a national recognition to our city, which is the visual arts capital of Texas. We're excited to continue this year for a big time this year. We hope you'll join us for some of the activities during that week.
Laura, would you like to say anything?
And as interim director of the San Angelo Museum of Fine Arts, I would just like to say how proud we are of this program, how grateful we are for the support of the city and everyone in the community. So yes, please come out, enjoy the events this year. They're going to be pretty great.
Our next proclamation is Red Ribbon Week. Do we have individuals in the audience to receive this? Please come forward. Glad to have you here. Come on. Substance use disorder is particularly harmful to one of our most valuable resources, our children, and contributes to the 3 leading causes of death for teenagers: accidents, homicides, and suicides. It is imperative that visible, unified prevention education efforts by community members be launched to eliminate the demand for drugs. It is the goal of Red Ribbon Week and ADAC to involve families, schools, businesses, churches, law enforcement agencies, and service organizations in all aspects of this campaign, and establish an atmosphere that supports awareness, education, and ongoing initiatives to prevent illegal drug use. The Red Ribbon Week campaign theme promotes family and individual responsibilities for living healthy, drug-free lifestyles without illegal drugs or the illegal use of legal drugs. The Alcohol and Drug Awareness Center for the Concho Valley and Concho Valley Cares has many activities planned during the Red Ribbon Week campaign and is asking the residents of the city of San Angelo to observe Red Ribbon Week, October 22nd through 31st, 2023. Therefore, I, Brenda Gunter, Mayor of the City of San Angelo, Texas, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim October 23 through 31, 2023 as Red Ribbon Week, and call upon all residents, parents, governmental agencies, public and private institutions, businesses, hospitals, schools, and colleges in the City of San Angelo to support and increase community awareness and prevention efforts in our community. Present you with a proclamation. Who's going to speak today? Come on.
Thank you. All right, good morning. Thank you, Mayor Gunther and the City Council members for the support for having us today to proclaim October 23rd through the 31st Red Ribbon Week. My name is Gilbert Mendoza. I am the Community Coalition Partnership Director for the Alcohol and Drug Awareness Council for the Concho Valley, otherwise known as ADAC. At ADAC, we provide prevention, treatment, detox, and recovery services. At our Cotton Lindsay Center and Journey Recovery Center, counselors provide one-on-one services for our clients, education, support, and accountability. I encourage anyone in the community that knows someone struggling with substance use disorder or alcohol use disorder to give our office a call to seek treatment. Also, at our Cotton Lindsay Center, our prevention team works tirelessly, traveling from county to county, serving schools and boys and girls clubs of the Concho Valley. They provide education and life skills to help students and youth learn more about the healthy, drug-free lifestyle. And this upcoming week, our prevention team will be sharing the true meaning of Red Ribbon Week and the meaning behind it and why we celebrate it as a nation, serving our theme this year as Be Kind to Your Mind, Live Drug-Free. Thank you and God bless.
Our last proclamation is Energy Efficiency Month. Do we have individuals in the audience who'd like to come forward? Good morning. Welcome. Got a lot of you. This is great. Good morning. Born out of Lyndon B. Johnson's War on Poverty and the advocacy of Martin Luther King Jr., community action agencies fight for the promise that every individual and family should have an opportunity for success. Founded in 1966, Concho Valley Community Action Agency has a nearly 6-decade history of providing assistance and promoting self-sufficiency for citizens of limited income. CVCAA plays a vital role in supporting low-income families and underserved communities by advocating for policies and programs that improve living conditions and economic opportunities. Energy efficiency is a powerful tool in reducing energy costs, alleviating the burden on low-income households, and advancing social and economic equity. October has been designated as Energy Efficiency Month, providing an opportunity to raise awareness about the benefits of energy efficiency and the positive impact it holds for low-income families and the entire community. Energy-efficient homes not only reduce energy bills, but also contribute to cleaner air, healthier living environments, and enhanced economic stability for residents, particularly those facing hardships. With a mission of helping people and changing lives, CVCAA has helped numerous households cut down their utility spending and made our region a better place to live, work, and play. Therefore, I, Mayor Gunter, Mayor of the City of San Angelo, Texas, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim October 2023 as Energy Efficiency Month in San Angelo, Texas, and want to emphasize the importance of energy equity and sustainability for all. Together, we can work toward a brighter future for our great city. Mike, would you like?
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. CVCAA has a number of programs that benefit our low-income neighbors here in the Concho Valley. Of them, our weatherization program is the one that provides the most long-term effects. When we pay someone's utility bills or when we pay someone's rent, that service ends when our payments stop. But weatherizing a home provides energy assistance, provides lower bills for our folks well beyond the time that we spend paying for the services that we render for them. It's a small team. This is our weatherization team. Ricky and William are the two that go out and do the bulk of the work. They weatherize homes in 14 counties around the Concho Valley. Our funding was increased for this from the bipartisan infrastructure law that was passed last year, so we're really excited about being able to impact more homes in the Concho Valley. Thank you.
How about that? We will now move into the public comment portion of the agenda. Issues or concerns not on the regular agenda may be raised by the public at this time. Citizens should speak from the podium, address all comments to the dais, begin by stating their name and address or single-member district number, and limit their remarks to less than 3 minutes. Do we have individuals in the audience who would like to come forward and offer comment? Please come forward.
Yes, Madam Mayor, may I approach?
And give the city attorney.
Morning, Madam Mayor. My name is Michael Lepak, citizen of San Angelo, single member District 3. For over this past year, I've been talking about markets along the river. And in this case, we have markets on the Concho. We are going to have our ribbon cutting on October 31st at 4:30. And we invite the city to this opportunity for markets along the Concho and its premier event. Madam Mayor, I stand before you and answer any questions.
At this point during public comment, we generally don't have questions, so
All right.
thank you for the
Thank you.
information. Thank you, Michael. Further public comment, please come forward, state your name, your district, your address, either or.
Okay, well, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Mayor. My name is Alex Rios, and I live at 1401 South Van Buren. I have a business at the Cactus Hotel, and I've noticed that the parking tickets have been enforced again the last few months, and I understand that was mainly to raise revenue for the city, which I think is great. But I had an idea that I think would help both of us, downtown business owners and workers in the city. And I was thinking of a downtown parking permit idea to sell for maybe 50, 60 a year, 100 something for 3 years, just something where you save a little bit of money the longer you go. Because I've noticed most of the tickets that I've seen being received are from business owners and downtown employees. So it seemed like the parking ticket is $17. I've gotten one. The girl next to me has gotten one. Nothing against that. I'm not here being anti-city or anti-revenue. But it just seems like that might be a slower trickle of revenue, $17 at a time, rather than if you sold a permit, you would get more of a surge, at least from the downtown people who would have an interest in doing that. So that was my idea. As far as hashing out the details, I know that's y'all's job if you thought that was something worth looking into. So that's what I wanted to submit today, and that was it.
Thank you, Alex.
Okay, thank you.
Can I comment on the tickets, the parking?
Just to respond to what he said with some.
Well, I just want to clarify, the parking tickets is not done to create revenue. It is for the following reason. Several years ago, parking was limited to 1 hour. We changed it to 3 hours to be a lot more customer friendly. The idea of the 3-hour parking is the following: to make sure that people who choose to come down and support businesses in the downtown area can find a parking spot. What we found was tremendous amount of the parking spots were being used by employees of businesses. And so people who chose to come down and shop and dine in downtown couldn't find parking spots. So there was a deterrent to them supporting the businesses downtown because there was not parking available because too many employees were parking in those spots. So that was the reason. And we changed it 8, 9, 10 years ago from 1 hour, which it used to be, because that didn't seem very friendly, to 3 hours, which we felt was much friendlier. Other public comment?
Good morning, Evelyn Smith, SMD 5. I just wanted to comment a little bit on what Michael already said about the vendors. I just got back from Chicago. We had a death in the family. And while we were there, we were able to visit the Riverwalk that's downtown in Chicago. And I like to say that it was not only calming, but beneficial and therapeutic. And I think the Riverwalk here in San Angelo benefits a lot of people also in that way that we don't always think about that it does for people. And I support the vendors there because when I have visitors here, family and friends, and we have reunions here, we drive down through the Riverwalk, but there's really no place to stop and vendors and shop and get little gifts and so forth. So I would like to just impress upon that more support from the city and from the city and the public on this particular item. Thank you.
Thank you, Evelyn. It's good to see you. Further public comment?
Good morning. My name is Alfredo Castro, 2202 Live Oak Street, District 5. The reason for my visitation is to bring awareness of speeding issues on Live Oak. There's been numerous accidents on South Tyler and Live Oak, and then further down the road on Johnson and Live Oak. My main concern is between South Garrett and Johnson. My home is right in the middle, which seems to be the speedway of Live Oak. Speeds the miles per hour is 30, and most people go 37 to 42 to 45. How do I know that? I'm a military police veteran, so I'm able to guesstimate what the speeds are. I brought it up to Frank Carter. I've emailed him several times. I've called traffic, dispatch, and many, and it just goes on shrugged shoulders. So that's what I'm here for, to try to bring awareness. We're trying to add speed bumps or maybe a four-way stop sign to help slow down that 1 mile stretch between Johnson and Washington. Further closer to Washington, there's divots and bumps that people slow down there. But like I said, my concern is South Garrett and Johnson.
And they have done, my name's Caden Tucker. I also
Can you
reside.
just get a little closer to the microphone, please?
My name's Caden Tucker. I also live at 2202 Live Oak. This is my husband. They've also done one of those traffic review survey things, but of course it's kind of like setting a police officer out in front. As soon as they see it, they start to slack back a little bit as it's there. But again, we've had numerous neighbors and numerous families even come to us because they know it irritates us just as much, and we're just a little bit more vocal. But again, it's just one of those things that it's constant and it's continuous. And we just keep being told, well, it's not wide enough to do anything. Well, there's several streets in town that we've gone through and measured that they're narrower than us, and they have speed bumps. We understand there's been accidents. There's been accidents on our street, too. Just trying to see how we can go about getting a resolution, because whenever we speak to one person, we're told one thing, and then we're diverted to somebody else. And then it just kind of is a chain domino reaction at that point. We're just sent to another person that tells us something totally different than what we were relayed to before.
Could you repeat those addresses, please? You have it? Okay. Thank you. Further public comment? Now's your chance. Seeing no one else coming forward, we will conclude the public comment section of this agenda, and we will move into the regular agenda. The consent agenda. The first item is consider approving the October 3rd. Well, I don't need to read these, actually, so we're not going to spend the time doing that. I'm sure all of you have already read them and know what is on there. So I'm going to ask if there's any items that a council member would like to pull, or are we good with the whole consent agenda? Larry, you're on.
Just item E.
E. Karen? Lucy?
No, ma'am.
Harry?
Nothing.
Okay. Tom? Nothing to pull. Tommy? With that, may I have a motion for approval of the consent agenda? With the exception of item E, there's a motion by Tom, a second by Lucy. Any public comment on the consent agenda with the exception of item E? Seeing none, we'll take a vote. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda with the exception of item E, say aye.
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 Motion passes 7-0. We will now move into item E. Consider two resolutions approving the advanced funding agreement between the City of San Angelo and the State of Texas per the terms of TxDOT's Highway Safety Improvement Program, HSIP, being related to the traffic and pedestrian signal at 1 Grape Creek Road and 29th Street with the city's contribution of funding in an amount not to exceed $21,883, and West Avenue End from College Hills to Austin Street with the city's contribution of funding in an amount not to exceed $20,792. Larry, you're on.
This is informational only. I think this is a pretty good deal. But I want you to tell the community that, okay, we're paying for one aspect of the project, but there's a heck of a lot of money going to be spent on the installation and construction of the materials. I just wanted you to talk about that a little.
Yes, so you're exactly right, Larry. What this is a grant program through the Texas Department of Transportation for the highway safety improvement projects. What this does is it looks at intersections around the city and ranks those based on their traffic, basically their hazard and their number of traffic collisions and accidents in that. And so we rank them, we make an application for specific intersections. And so what that does is that comes in and then they provide funding in order to improve those intersections. So a portion of what this item is actually an advanced funding agreement that we have to have with the state for that. So what it's going to do is we pay for the design as the city, and then the state picks up the actual construction cost. In that part of it, we owe the state about $17,000 in total for the two projects in administrative fees for that. So for our $17,000 plus the cost of design of $24,000, so about $42,000, we're getting over $200,000 of improvements on our signalized intersections across town. So sounds like a deal to me.
How did we come up with these two intersections?
So like we said, we look at the metrics across all of our intersections in town. The Grape Creek and 29th was one that had a high number of both vehicular and pedestrian accidents in it. So what we're going to be doing on that intersection is improving the pedestrian elements on that particular intersection, because that was really the key factor of what kicked that intersection into the qualifying category. So we're going to be improving the crosswalks and the pedestrian elements in that particular area. The other one is down Johnson Street and Avenue N. As we know, there's a bunch of traffic that goes down that. So we're going to be adding traffic cameras to those signalized intersections in order to help improve that traffic corridor along that area so that we can improve both the cross-street availability as well as the movement of traffic up and down Avenue N.
Do I have further questions or comments from council?
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Seeing none, hearing none, may I have a motion for approval? Larry? Okay. Do I have a second? Second by Tommy. Public comment on this item? Seeing none, we will take a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Motion passes 7-0. We will now move into our regular agenda. Comments regarding items on the regular agenda may be made by the public when each item is discussed as outlined above. Applicants, proponents, and appellants are exempt from the time limit above and instead must limit their remark to less than 5 minutes. Item A is the Chamber of Commerce Economic Development mid-year update and 2022 look-back presentation. And Michael, you are on.
All right. Good morning, City Council. Good morning, Mayor. It's a great day in San Angelo, and I'm glad to be here. I'm Michael Looney. I'm the VP of Economic Development for the San Angelo Chamber of Commerce. Chamber of Commerce Economic Development Department works very closely as a partner to COSA DC, which is the city's development corporation, and we also work with Tom Green County Commissioners on a variety of economic development projects. So we're going to go ahead and get started here. This is a 22 look back. Overview for those who may not be familiar, the main focus of the Chamber's Economic Development Department mission is prospect generation. That's prospecting for new companies to move to San Angelo, mostly industrial companies, industry recruitment, variety of different types of industry sectors, BRE efforts, a lot of that supported by our relationships that we have with our existing incumbent manufacturers through our manufacturing association, the SARMA, San Angelo Regional Manufacturers Alliance, and industrial career promotion and training. And that's probably one of the most important ones on the list because all the different companies that we work with, whether they're incumbent companies that are here or companies that we're talking to for recruitment, in career promotion and workforce is the most important topic that they bring up constantly. So we put a focus on that. We put an emphasis on that. To look back at 2022, of the transactions.
Stop right there. Describe the industrial career promotion and training. Because in many cases, people think, well, why aren't companies doing their own training and educating the public in terms of job opportunities and skill levels needed? So why do we take it on as a targeted emphasis when many people would believe that would be done by companies?
Yes, you're right. Some of the industrial companies that we have here do have in-house training programs, but they're not widely disseminated to the public. The public really meaning ASU, Howard College, and SAISD. So what we do is we act as a bridge between industry and academia. And what that does is that informs students and their parents about the opportunities that exist in San Angelo within the trades and within the manufacturing sector. So yes, some of these companies do have in-house training programs, but they are generally they're so busy keeping their companies moving and supply chain orders fulfilled and manufactured products going out the door that what we found, great question, what we found is that a lot of these companies, when we would visit with them and get to know them, they would express, yes, we do in-house training, but we don't have the time to go to the schools and go to the university to describe this in a consistent manner. So what we do is we act as that bridge. And we're going to talk about that in just a few seconds here. Great point. And that's exactly why we do it, to serve as that public information conduit. But we also go deeper than that in putting together actual programs where the industrial operations inform the curriculum. Closed projects, there were 3, a total of output, compensation, and sales. So this is the total cap value of these transactions. Total was $28 million. Did you have a question?
No,
okay.
I'm just adjusting my seat.
And that's comprised of three distinct projects that created 55 jobs, 26 indirect jobs. These are the secondary yield jobs that come from the primary jobs. When we calculate these are on an annualized basis. It's not uncommon for corporations and development corporations and chambers to utilize a much larger yield horizon where they'll say, well, this is the total yield to the community over a 5-year period or a 10-year period. We think that's a very risky number because we really don't know. The company these companies could triple in size, and that would completely change the calculus. So we just use an annualized number. So we felt like 28 million was a pretty good take for 22. There was still that COVID recovery, meaning supply chains were still somewhat degraded. Manufacturing orders were down. But here we go. So I'm not going to read through all of this, but prospect generation. This gives an idea of how we track the prospects that we are speaking with and approaching to discuss either a relocation or an establishment of a new service in San Angelo, manufacturing or some other industrial service, primary job creator, or it's an incumbent company that we're talking to about expansion or programs that will help them expand internally. So their physical plant may not expand, but they may need to hire more personnel that are specifically trained so that they can increase output for higher volumes of orders. Industry recruitment. Okay, so this is the tally of the 3 companies that I just mentioned. CSA Materials. This was the first tenant company out at the Railport. That's a division of Reese Albert. That closed in February of 22. Allen's Transport, this is the project that we've talked about, moved at kind of a glacial pace for 5 years, but finally they landed. They deferred from building a facility on their 12 acres in the industrial park. They located a building on Gas Plant Road that was perfect for them. It was built in 2015, the old Detmar building. And they bought it and paid cash for it and began operations almost immediately. And that company, incidentally, is in the process of another expansion. They're doing very well. Rosenberger Site Solutions. This is our German company. This is the one where I was challenged at City Council to see if I could correctly pronounce the entire name of the company, which is Rosenberger GmbH High Frequency Technique. I think I said it in German at the time, but we've gone past that.
Sure you did.
We've moved past that. Hochfrequency Technique. Rosenberger, this is a really neat company, and we were really pleased. We actually had the VP of the North American division in town briefly for a couple of days while he was inspecting the facility. He's from the Northeast United States. They're very pleased with this. This was a pretty tough competition. Took us about a year to do, from learning about their interest in the Central Texas area to actually closing it. They did a long-term lease on a building that's about 25,000 square feet up on Tractor Trail. Same building that we incubated SMC Global in. They're going to hire a total of 25 people, but they're right now at about 15 people. They're hiring in groups of 5. These are good paying jobs. They're in what we would consider the high-tech industry, so it blends well with part of the mission of the ASU engineering department. So they're already lashed up and talking and working together collaboratively, which we wanted to foster. In fact, ASU played a role in helping us recruit Rosenberger to San Angelo, in that Dr. David Bixler, who's one of the deans and professors at ASU, actually teaches courses on the science behind what Rosenberger makes in San Angelo. This transaction was not an expansion of Rosenberger's. And Rosenberger's a 16,000 person company globally. They're kind of the GE of Germany. So they have divisions all over the world. This was actually a removal of their division that's now in San Angelo from eastern Pennsylvania to San Angelo. So we had to be pretty careful about talking about it, because we were asked to collaborate with Rosenberger and not alarm the remaining employees up in Pennsylvania. They were having a lot of trouble with supply chain. They were having a lot of trouble with employee retention. So down here in San Angelo, they've eliminated those issues. They're standing up the facility. And at some point in the near future, we'll go out and take a field trip to go look at it. It's an amazing facility, and we're very pleased to have them here. SARMA, BRE efforts. This is the business retention and expansion efforts. So this is number 3 on the list that we started the presentation with. This is a summary of the projects that we've worked on in 2022 and bled into 2023, where we're bringing workforce together with educational institutes. Fabricators Recruitment Day, Manufacturers Day, which was part of Manufacturers Month, and that's through the National Manufacturing Institute. We held the only West Texas registered event with the National Manufacturing Institute, and that was actually the Air Motor Windmill School, where we brought students in from around the country to learn how to service and work on the Air Motor, the iconic Air Motor water pumps. Fabricators Recruitment Day was a team effort between the Chamber, Howard College, and SAISD, and several manufacturers, where we brought students from SAISD actually to the factories in San Angelo. And we did that very successfully. We got a lot of interest from a lot of students. But more importantly, it helped educate the parents, and it helped educate the schools as to what kind of curriculum they should be teaching in order to prepare these students for eventual potential jobs within local industry.
Michael, would you go back to 2 slides ago? Because
that one?
Yes, for the following reason. People watching us can't see the fine print so much. So would you just go company by company and tell the public what these companies do?
Thank you. I surely will. That's another good point. CSA Materials, a lot of people may not know what they do. This is a crushed stone and aggregate materials division of Reese Albert. It's a large company. Most of their materials come from a quarry that is located on the western flank of San Angelo. That is a limestone product. They harvest thousands of tons per year of that limestone. But another large operation that they have is near Alpine, and that's where the rail service and the rail port as a transload area really makes that work. That is trachyte rock. That is volcanic rock. That is some of the hardest rock in the world. It's very similar to a very hard granite, but it's lighter. So they're bringing this trachyte rock from the Alpine area. It's actually called Stubbs Quarry. About 11,000 tons per train load will come to San Angelo. It takes about a day and a half for it to get here. And that pulls a lot of trucks off the road. It's very efficient, and it lowers the cost of those materials that CSA then sells to municipalities and to construction sites. So that's CSA Materials, and that is the first tenant that we have at the rail port. They're running about 2 trains a month. right now. Allen's Transport, this is a heavy haul company from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. We were introduced to them prior to the COVID situation. The COVID situation, which as we all know, put a real hammerlock on the supply chain and logistics industry, big time. But we kept working with the ownership of Allen's Transport. They're a very well-known Western Canada, Alberta area, British Columbia heavy haul company. What they've done is they've created a marketplace for the shipment of a specialty product that is actually made in Bryan, Texas. It's the only factory like it in the world that makes a drag-reducing agent that is injected into interregional pipelines that reduces the turbulence of the oil product moving through these interregional pipelines by 75%. So it creates a tremendous amount of efficiency so that product can get from the point of origin to the destination, destinations being refineries. So you have hundreds of miles long interregional pipelines. Allen's is the company that LSPI Chemical, which is based in Bryan, Texas, uses exclusively for the shipment and for the application of this drag-reducing agent. And the drag-reducing agent business is a wonderful business because the drag-reducing agent, which is basically a polymer, gets injected into the interregional pipeline, but it doesn't survive the entire journey and has to be replenished, in this case by Allen's Transport with LSPI product, all along the journey. So it's kind of a secure business model. So we're very pleased with what they've done. Yes?
Have they had any problem hiring truck drivers? Because that's
They
the number
haven't.
one issue.
Luckily, they haven't. And that was probably the one concern that we had because as we all know, as fellow economic developers, one of the biggest issues we have in North America is a lack of qualified CDL drivers. They have not had any problems with it. They have probably a higher pay grade than a lot of trucking companies because technically they haul hazmat material. There's nothing hazardous about it. Basically, they're hauling it's like a Teflon product, but you still need to have those certifications. So that's going to immediately make their applicants more of the, I guess you'd say, elite drivers, of which there are enough for them to utilize here from the San Angelo hub. They really like San Angelo because it gives them a really good home base between the Colorado border and the Gulf Coast. And a lot of that's dependent on lifestyle quality in San Angelo. So they know that the drivers like living here, their families are secure here. As they do these heavy haul runs, they're usually home the same day. Sometimes it's an overnight. But it also is tied somewhat to the electronic logs, where a truck driver in the past might have been able to, as they called it, push. In this case, they're like airline pilots. I mean, when they have a shutdown period, they must shut down the power on that truck. So San Angelo is very strategically located between, as I said, Gulf Coast and eastern Colorado, which is their next leg onto Canada. So that's the Allen's Transport story. They're over now, as I said, in the Detmar Transportation Building, the former Detmar Transportation Building on Gas Plant Road. And then Rosenberger, they're a company that manufactures electronics equipment. If one were to look at their website, they make thousands of different products. What their company in San Angelo makes are connectors, mostly for the telecommunications and defense sector. And these are two different types of connectors. Some of them are designed for North American use, and some of them are designed for European use, and they're both different. They have been manufacturing these products since 1958. The technology has continued to improve. It's probably at this facility half automated, half manual. So it's really almost more like craft work that they're doing. It can't all be automated. But what they do is they import hundreds of tons per year of coated cable, and then they create those cable lengths specific to what the customer needs. And if you recall, when we were introducing this transaction to the City Council 4 or 5 months ago, we showed a video that was an animation that explained the actual application of the products. It's a very, very high quality product. It's a high value product. It's not the cheapest stuff on the market. But it is well absorbed by the marketplace, mostly, as I said, in telecommunications, cell phone communications, and the defense and logistics industry. So So they're continuing to do well, and we're happy to have them here. There's
Thank you.
Fabricators Recruitment Day, Manufacturing Days, SME Prime. This is a rare program. This was one of the first. In fact, the SME Prime program, that is Partnership Response in Manufacturing Education. SAISD has been working with SME, the Society of Manufacturing Engineers, for 3 years now. SAISD is the second high school in Texas to have an SME Prime program. The only other high school in Texas that has a Prime program is Hollingstein Technical High School in Fort Worth. So we're the second in Texas. What it basically is you have SME Prime, which is a program of Prime is a program of Society of Manufacturing Engineers that does just what we talked about. They bring together equipment, they create labs with private and public funding in order to foster and engender students at the high school level to focus on degrees and educational certifications in the electronics manufacturing and in the steel manufacturing sector, so mostly metals and electronics. The partnership program initially was kicked off by a contribution from COSA DC, Ethicon, Principal LED, and a contribution from the Chamber of Commerce. That project is now moving into its third year and has been very successful in bringing together students from SAISD and the manufacturers, not just at the companies listed, but at other manufacturers, incumbent local manufacturers, on creating programs specifically designed to introduce high school students to the manufacturing sector and then bring them into the manufacturing sector actually doing work either on an apprenticeship basis, part-time while they're in their senior year, or full-time work once they graduate. And we're continuing on, and we've had wonderful support from Society of Manufacturing Engineers, which is based in Dearborn, Michigan, and with the companies that have been contributing to this as the project has evolved. Okay, so 23 mid-year update. So that was the 22 look back. If you look at the 23 mid-year, so far, to date, we have closed approximately $24 million in sales. Those are economic yields to the community on an annualized basis. That's 2 projects. That's created 35 direct jobs. Those 2 companies are a BRE, Business Retention and Expansion Program, that was with Principal Sloan, formerly known as Principal LED. Principal LED acquired Sloan LED last year, or earlier this year. I believe they closed it, but it took them about a year to do. That gave them 50% global market share in their industry sector. So internals for LED systems, mostly signage, our hometown, Principal Sloan, now has 50% global market share. And that's something to celebrate, and we're very pleased with that. Well, that came home to roost when they contacted us and said, we're totally out of room in the industrial park, help. So we jumped into action and went to work and helped find them a facility that's approximately 25,000 square feet in size. That's in the Chaparral Industrial Park, which is across the highway from their current facility next to Howard College. Signed a long-term lease. Originally, they were going to use it just for bulk storage, but they decided to convert that space because of the quality of the space into its research and development department. And so we toured that a couple of weeks ago, and it was a wonderful tour. And I'm going to make sure that we all put that on a field trip at some point in the near future, what they've done. I would add that Principal Sloan is a gem of a community partner. They have many employees. Probably approximately 25% of their employees are people who have come from different rehabilitation programs, that they are now back on their feet. They are very productive. You can feel the pride when you're in the facility, and seeing that many of these people from around the country and around the state who've gone through a recovery program in San Angelo and have now deployed out into the workforce. And Principal Sloan is a wonderful partnership with several of these facilities and programs, and brings these young men and young women into their facility, get them up-trained, and boy, I tell you what, you can really feel the pride. And because when we were touring the facility, we noticed that many of them were from different cities, pretty far away. And we were curious as to, well, how they got here. And so that was explained to us by a member of leadership of Principal Sloan. So that's something that I think is important for you all to know, that when we put our efforts and our funds and our treasure and our energy behind expanding existing incumbent industry, there's sometimes more to the story that makes the story even better. Equipment Share, this is a company that we started working with in 2020. In 2020, this is a company that is based out of Tennessee. They are a heavy mining equipment rental company. Technically not a primary jobs creator, but we worked with them because they had a vision for a facility in San Angelo that would be one of the finest rental facilities for maintenance and for geo-tracking their equipment and for reliability of service and delivery. We were very impressed with the company. They've got a very, very impressive website. Their company leadership contacted us directly. They said, we want to be in San Angelo. We believe in San Angelo. We understand. We want to get there first because they were aware of so much of the growth that is happening and is going to happen. So they wanted to establish themselves in that position. They purchased the former AEP building on 19th Street, which had been vacant for probably about 5 years. And the building was in pretty tough condition. It had been heavily used. They came in and basically it's a brand new building, except for the superstructure and for the skin of the building. It's basically brand new. It's not on here, but they're going to hire 35 employees. We went and visited them a couple of weeks ago. They were up to about 20 at the time we talked to them. These are good paying jobs. They have very good packages for their employees, training, retirement packages, health care. And so we really like this company, and we're really pleased that they're there. So if you're on 19th Street, you're heading towards the dam, if you look to your left, you will see the building is gleaming and looks really good. So a good way to put an old asset back into the marketplace performing. Angelo Solar, this is one of our county projects. This is actually located on 2288, right next door to the Duke Energy facility that came online 3 years ago. So this is Angelo Solar. This is the highest value solar project that we've worked on in Tom Green County at $334 million. Right now we're experiencing a yield effect economically of all of the construction workers that are in San Angelo temporarily to get it built. There will be 2 full-time employees once the project is complete and energized, and it will serve as a good revenue generator for Grape Creek ISD and for the county.
Did you say that you were going to ask the city to extend the city limits out to that area so we could pull it back into the city for benefit?
I would like to have that annexation discussion with you in private chambers if that pleased the court.
Okay.
And then this is just a chart that I'm not going to go through in any great detail because it's probably a bit difficult to read, but the bottom line is on our business retention and expansion program, 40% of the work that we do is BRE. That's economic gardening. That's the purest form of economic development. You take care of those who brung you. You take care of those companies that you have here. We've had a 1.2% average year-over-year growth in business establishment for 10 years, since 2012.
And that includes COVID years, so that number would be a low number if you could pull out a couple of those years.
Oh, of course. It would have been a much faster and higher trajectory if we hadn't had that. The dip down that you see was the degradation of West Texas Intermediate crude, which pulled us all down circa 2015, 2016, with some recovery noticed in 2017. The COVID year, 2021, you can see there's a slight dip down. But a lot of people who were affected, many people who were affected by the COVID situation actually started their own businesses. So that's when we saw that bounce that happened in 2022. And then business formation applications, that's up 6.9% year over year since 2012. So overall, our experience as partners, as COSA-DC's partner, the scouts on the front line, we are very confident in our community's ability to stand up to the challenges faced by the global marketplace. We're succeeding. Unemployment is still very low, hovering at around 3% per year, which is a challenge, but it's kind of a good problem to have.
Almost 4%.
Excuse me?
I thought it had just raised to 4%.
It may have. I'm looking at data that's probably 6 months old or so.
It's 4% now,
and we actually had an economist that we spoke to about a year ago and we asked, well, we're at 3.5%, unemployment, and he said, he was from Dallas. He's with the Federal Reserve Bank. He said 6% is considered by economists to be a healthy unemployment number in any given community at any given time. So if you're below that, you have an issue with needing more employees, whether they're brought into the community or whether they're groomed within the community. And so
you recently received an award, and I would like for you to explain why you received that award.
I'll do
why
that.
San Angelo?
Thank you, and I appreciate you bringing that up. This slide, this slide that we're looking at now highlights some of the 5 distinct workforce development programs that the Chamber, Howard College, ASU, and SAISD worked on together. We worked on it also with some members of the county commissioners and with COSA DC. This project was encapsulated as a report that we were asked to submit to the International Economic Development Council early this year. They were requesting papers on what kinds of programs, as a member of IEDC, San Angelo Chamber submitted, and we were notified about 2 months ago that we were expected to be at the conference in Dallas. Being an international economic development organization, we were very fortunate that their conference was actually in Dallas, not London or Calgary or Hong Kong.
Darn it.
Darn. How would I explain that special request to COSA DC? Hey, I need to go to Hong Kong for a couple of days. Is that okay? But luckily it was in Dallas. And we were very fortunate because we were awarded the Gold Award out of 540 applicants of cities between 25,000 and 200,000 population. So they had 4 categories. We were category 2. We took Gold Award in Workforce Innovation and Development. And we were very honored to receive that. We spent some time taking classes up at the conference in Dallas, and we got to know a lot of the people, kind of by chance, who were on the 17-person search committee, the review committee of all the different applicants that had come in earlier that year. And it was really impressed upon us that this is a big deal. This is not something to take lightly, and to share that with the community, share that with our leadership, and celebrate it together. This was quite a mighty award. They honored our innovation, our creativity, and anecdotally, I had several conversations with several economic developers from around the country, and as I found, bringing industry together in meaningful dialogue and then having an added effect of program creation for students, which helps the manufacturer and helps the students at the same time, generally helping our economy, is actually very rare. And I found out, and I thought about it when I was actually receiving the award, and I had to say a few words. It took everything I had for me just not to say, doesn't everybody do this? I feel like we're just trying to catch up. And the reality is, it's actually very difficult because so many manufacturing operations, industrial operations, primary job creators, and institutes of education are fairly siloed, and they don't really enjoy that dialogue. You will see that in larger markets where there's a lot more, say, research going on between hospitals and universities. That's very common. But grassroots type work where you have young students, 18, 17, 19-year-old students, collaborating with leadership of these manufacturing entities in our case, San Angelo and the surrounding immediate area, is actually very rare. And we think that this is going to propel us to self-rescue our community because we don't have a nearby massive MSA to draw from. We're on our own, and we have to work together, and that's exactly what we're doing. And that's what I spoke about in Dallas, that we're all working together because we're all we have. We are all we have in this community because we're isolated. But that creates a strength because we all know and we can learn quickly and pivot quickly as to what we need to do to adjust economically and understand how we can fulfill these needs that the marketplace has by utilizing and training our students, our people, to fulfill those jobs. And industry locally is very happy with the results.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
Questions?
Any questions?
For Michael? Comments? I know we're going to continue this conversation later. So,
Oh, yeah.
With that, thank you very much for being, oh, yes, Larry. You got to raise your hand quick when I say,
I'm
is
sorry.
anybody? Yeah.
I think we're all excited about this linkage between universities, schools, and manufacturing. You mentioned SME, the SME.
Society of Manufacturing Engineers, yes,
I'm
sir.
excited about the fact that it's not only academic, but he has hands-on even while he's in school and may move into a full-time job. Could you have one of those students come in? I'd like to hear their success story on this.
That is a wonderful invitation, and we would love to do that. You can count on that.
One of the statistics that's really good to hear about right now is ASU. And their early numbers for population at ASU for students has gone over 11,000 people this year. We're one of the few universities in the country who's had an increase. Most universities are having decreases in terms of growth. And it is exciting to know that they've reached that across all categories, graduate, freshman, et cetera. So I think that this program and the things that you're talking about have helped them recruit. And it also tells me that there's 11,000 students there who might need your help. So keep up the good work.
Well, we enjoy it, and we are at ASU campus every week or every other week and communicating weekly with members of leadership. And the enthusiasm with which they have for their mission is it's hard to ignore. I mean, it is so infectious, and it just spills over and creates so much goodwill and so many ideas for opportunities within our community. We're doing a great job, everybody. I'm so glad to be here, and I thank you so much for your support. I really do. I speak on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce and all of our members. Thank you so much for your support.
Thank you, Michael. See you in a little bit.
Okay.
Our next item on the irregular agenda is item B, consider a request for an appeal of the Planning Commission's denial of a conditional use CU 23-41 for short-term rental located at 2274 Joy Road in the RS1 zoning district. And John, you're on.
Thank you, John James, Director of Planning and Development Services. We did receive over the weekend a couple of additional responses in favor and in opposition, and we've got copies if you guys want to see them, and I'll talk about where those are when I get to the map in a few minutes. Oh. There we go. As you mentioned, this is a request for an appeal of a short-term rental. Comes to you as an appeal from the Planning Commission, who voted to deny this case. It is in RS1 zoning. You can see a picture of it there, and it is in District 1, and it's at Lake Nasworthy. This is just something we've started showing for STRs basically in the same neighborhood, and so you can see the current request is, I believe, this one in the gold. You can see some others in the area that have either expired or been denied recently, and then the green ones are the ones that are currently approved and operating. You can see here, this is just showing a little bit of a measurement. This is the subject property, and you can see that the backyard here is adjacent to the front yard of the adjacent property, and so the way they're offset, that was a potential issue that has come up. We did send out our 8 notices. We received 1 in favor, 3 opposed, and so this is a little complicated because we received an additional opposition, which you've got by email. We also received an additional in favor by email. We received a phone call this morning from another neighbor that's not represented on here that is opposed, but then we received a withdrawal of an opposition from one of the adjacent neighbors. So I'm not sure if I can keep track of how many that is, but So there are at least 2 in favor. Actually make that 3. So 3 in favor. See, 2 additional opposed minus 1, so that would be 4 opposed. But as you can see, all of these responses are basically from within this area, including neighbors on either side, one of which is in favor and one of which is opposed. And I believe some or many of them may be here today to speak. Staff does recommend approval of this with 3 conditions. These are kind of standard conditions. One is to pave and maintain 2 off-street parking spaces. You can see, if you remember the picture, they do not have any paved parking spaces. It's just kind of grass and gravel. Our ordinance does require those parking spaces to be paved. So before they can get their approval to operate, they will have to pave those. They will have to get the certificate of occupancy. That includes a review by building permits as well as the fire marshal's office to ensure that they meet some minimum standards for health and safety as a short-term rental. And then the current ordinance requires an annual fire inspection from the fire marshal's office. And I say current ordinance because you may know that just yesterday the Planning Commission discussed some changes to the short-term rental ordinance. They gave us some direction to bring back to them next month, so you all won't see it probably until December, but there is some ongoing discussion about changes to that ordinance, including some of the recommendations that you've made over the past couple of meetings. This did go to the September Planning Commission meeting. They did deny the request for conditional use based on some of the concerns, which include kind of the general concerns we often hear from neighbors is the potential for noise and parties, particularly given that this is at the lake. Parking, these are narrow lots, kind of tight. And so the concern is, yes, they do have to require 2 paved parking spaces on the property, but if this is a group, that's coming here, you might have 3, 4, 5 cars, and so where are they going to park? And if they park in the street, that could create some issues for neighbors, and really just general concerns about changing the character of the neighborhood by allowing a short-term rental. The applicant was not present at the commission meeting, and so that raised a concern that they weren't able to answer some of these questions that the neighbors and the Planning Commission raised. And so I believe the applicant will be here today to help answer some of those questions. I think that's the overview. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Could you go back to the screen that shows the STR locations?
Oh. If I could hit the right button. Well, where was that? That one, yeah.
On the bottom of the screen, there's 3 greens.
John, I think you pointed to the large gold star right in the middle of the screen.
Yeah, did I get the wrong one?
I think it's the smaller green star down at the bottom of the screen.
That's what reason I'm asking.
It's on Fisherman's Road. The one up there is on the gold stars across the lake. The green stars down there on Fisherman's Road. I think that's it.
Okay, yeah.
So to be clear, the one we're talking about today is which one on that screen?
I think we're saying this one.
No, I think that small green star. I think it looks like it has a number 1 in the middle.
Right there?
Yeah. I think that's it.
So let me ask you a question, because there's 3 greens and 1 gold. And the distance between each of these, because I know that's always been one of the issues, is the distance between short-term rentals. What's the distance between all of those?
I don't have an exact distance, but I can tell you it's not within 500 feet, which our ordinance says you can't have within 500 feet without a variance from the Zoning Board of Adjustment, which they've granted 2 or 3 recently.
Brenda,
Yes, go ahead,
I
Tommy.
think I'm wrong. I believe it probably is that gold star on the right.
The right one, gold star.
It is close to Mary E. Lee Park, and so I think it's that gold star on the right. I've been out there enough. Okay, the gold star on the
Yeah.
right. Okay.
Okay, so with that, do I have questions for John from council? Tommy, you're on first.
Yes, John, I watched the Planning Commission meeting a couple of times, but for the benefit of council and the audience, talk through, if you don't mind, some of the opposition in a little more detail with respect to, I'm going to say specifically parking. You alluded to the parking concerns. They have to have the 2 spaces, but then there is no other parking on that property. So it's either going to be on the street, maybe in the street, but also there is no real, what I would call separation in terms of privacy between any of those properties out. Now, when you get further down, there's some privacy fencing, but in some of these homes right adjacent to and close to this, there's no separation. But then you also mentioned specifically, due to no one's fault whatsoever, it's simply due to the geography, topography of the land and the layout of this particular request backyard is really close to the neighboring property, I'd say on the right, maybe to the east, northeast, front yard.
That's right.
So talk through that a little bit more about the conversation that happened at Planning Commission.
Well, I think, like you said, it's really about this. I mean, as you can see, these are all, real narrow lots. And so parking is a concern, and maybe the applicant can speak to how they plan to address that. But, if there is parking along the street, now parking on the street is allowed generally, and so that is an option. But obviously you can see how tight the driveways are. That could create problems for adjacent neighbors or, parking just in general.
Is parking allowed across the street on that vacant lot?
That's a good question.
That is city property, is it not?
Normally it would be, but that may be a
Well, since we're
Shane or
talking about
Patrick
parking
question.
and I see this big open lot, that's one of the issues that would certainly be a topic of conversation, because it allows for parking. Yes, Lucy?
John, aside from the 3 conditions, does this applicant meet all the requirements that are required for a short-term lease? Or a
Well,
short-term rental?
the short answer is yes. They meet the requirements to come forward to ask. The longer answer is they do have to go through that process with the inspections from building and fire. And so in some cases in the past, we've found issues with them when they get those inspections, which haven't happened yet. That's fairly rare, but I don't want to stand here and say they meet all the requirements because they haven't been inspected for some of those things. Now, typically those are things they can solve, like smoke detectors or having a fire extinguisher. But in some cases, it's been things like an extra egress out of a bedroom, and so they may have to install a new window or door. Again, those are solvable, but some of those things don't get checked until after they get this approval.
I understand. Thank you.
Would you go back to the picture of the property? How many bedrooms does that have?
I defer to the applicant on that. I will point out, you mentioned the conditions. This is a conditional use, and it allows you to place any conditions you feel necessary on the approval. So you could add additional conditions. You mentioned the privacy. You could place a requirement that they have a fence between, their backyard and the neighbor's front yard adjacent, or something like that. If that would help you feel more comfortable approving, you can place additional conditions.
Questions? Yes, Karen.
A couple of questions. I seem to recall, as Tommy mentioned, that there was relatively hot debate at the Planning Commission over this particular property, and a great part of that conversation was regarding the orientation of the house on site relative to the neighbors. Do you remember it the same way?
Yes.
I'd like to hear a little bit more from you about what you remember.
Is that the only picture we have of, because I know.
I think so.
In addition, I also recall that that there was a substantial presence of other neighbors that were willing to get up and speak in opposition to this particular property. Anything that you can share with us about that would be most welcome. I think that we have one of the opposing commenters present with us today. I see a nod from the crowd. So I will look forward to hearing that as well.
Well, and that was going to be my answer. I hate to try to speak for
the commission.
For the commission, or I'm more comfortable speaking for them, but less so for the neighbors who all came and spoke. And I tried to summarize some of their concerns, but I know some of them are here, and so I might defer to them to better express their concerns.
Do your records show the final vote of the Planning Commission on this?
I think it's in your packet. I
think it was unanimous.
Yeah.
They had 6 members present. It was 6-0.
Thank you.
What we might do at this point, if council agrees, is to let people in the audience come forward and talk, including the property owners, so that we get their comments publicly. And then we'll go back, and certainly you can ask questions of them as they come forward, and then we'll see what other questions we have. So Tom, go ahead.
John, before you open it up, what was this property before? Was it an STR before?
I'm not aware of it having been an STR. This is not a renewal. So if they were operating it as an STR, I don't think they haven't gotten, it wasn't an approved STR.
All right, so, okay, that's all I need to know is was not an STR before.
Okay, so I'm going to open the floor for public comment. So whoever would like to come up first, please do.
Good morning, Mayor.
Good morning.
Esteemed council members. I'm Tim White. If you hear my watch go off, it's probably my heart monitor. I'm a little bit nervous. I feel responsible for my children who own this property. They are San Angelo raised, graduated from Central. I have 4 children. My oldest owns a business here in town. She owns Tilly and Mint Spa. And I moved my family here in 1995. I was a Russian instructor for the Navy. I was in the Navy for over 20 years. We fell in love with the town. We stayed here, raised our family here, and they're proud San Angeloans, and have gone off to college. And now some live in big cities, and some live here in town. I'm very proud of them, and I feel responsible. I wasn't at that planning meeting. I wasn't aware that it was essential for me to be there. Nobody told me it was. I thought it was more of a kind of a stamp to get started in the process, because I knew there were other things that would have to be worked out, the inspections, the parking, and all of those things. So I had to work. My daughter, who is the primary owner, her company is the S. Monte Group, but it's Shelby White. She was cheerleader here in Central, and like I said, they weren't able to come. They were working that morning and just weren't aware that it was essential for us to be there, or we would have been there to answer a lot of these questions. I have 14 members in my family, immediate family. And when we travel, we extensively use Airbnbs, and because we want to stay together as a family. We've had great experiences, and it's just important for us to stay together, eat together, and enjoy the sights of the towns that we visit. Our family, when we go back for family reunions and those things, we all stay together as a group. Recently, we went to Austin for a football game, and all of us stayed in a $1.2 million house. And I'm sure those of you that have used Airbnbs or short-term rental properties, you didn't destroy those properties. You didn't party. You didn't annoy the neighbors. Those are the kinds of clients that we're going to try to get to come to our property. When we have some rules that I'll go over, which will be in our contract. But for those of you that have used Airbnbs or short-term rentals or vacation rentals, they usually come with a set of rules, and there's also a score. There's a score for the property, and there's a score for the people who rent these properties. In order to rent the property that we're going to have is going to be a luxury, and I know this picture doesn't look like it's very much, but that's an 1,800 square foot house. It's 30 by 60. It's got a 600-foot great room, 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths. It's got a deck off the back that's 12 by 20. We have a two-story boat dock, and another piece that we're going to turn into an outdoor grill area. We're in the process of renovating. We've already spent about $40,000. And dealing with contractors, you know, we were supposed to be through about a month ago, but we're running a couple of months behind. A few years ago, I had cancer. One of our experiences was to stay as a family in a short-term rental. We stayed and we prayed. My outcome was great. I'm here today. I'm a cancer survivor for 20 years. So I survived the military. I survived being shot at, my airplane being shot at. I survived cancer, and now my heart rate's up more than any of those things. So I hope you will bear with me if I'm nervous, because I feel responsible that my kids, and I have an ulterior motive, I have grandkids. I want them to come back and use this property too. It's not going to be a full-time STR. It's going to be used by the family. And to offset the cost of the taxes, which are over $8,000, the insurance, which is over $1,000 a month, on top of that, the mortgage, to offset those costs, we want to be able to use it as a rental property from time to time just to offset those costs. So we can keep the property in the family and keep our kids with a footprint here in San Angelo. My daughter and son who own the property are real estate investors and real estate agents in the Metroplex area. They currently own 2 properties in San Angelo that are under renovation and another one under contract. So they're going to either be used as rentals, and we like to rent to the military. Can't deny that.
You're going to need to wrap up your comments, if you would, please.
Let me go to the specifics of the concerns. One, it is an in-town group. My wife and I will be the operators of this property. We live on 2917 Bluebonnet, which is 12 minutes from this property. I will make sure that every person on that street has our phone numbers and our emails, and they can contact us anytime if there's a problem. You have to be 25 years old to rent this property. In the rules, you cannot have parties of greater than the number of people that are there, registered to be there. So there's not going to be any frat parties. And like I said, we've just spent a ton of money renovating the electrical, the plumbing, putting in the smoke detectors, new bathrooms, new kitchen, all of those things. We're not going to have it destroyed. We're going to have responsible people that are rated highly on these sites. They also have to sign a contract. We have a good neighbors policy that says there's a quiet hours from 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. They're not allowed to do fireworks. They can have pets, but service animals. No smoking on the property. But they're not to annoy our neighbors. And I would love to put up a privacy fence, especially from the neighbor on the right, because that property's falling apart.
Good, because I think would require one.
Huh?
I think that would be required.
I would be more than happy to put one up. Also, the easement in the front, the way the property was designed years ago, the road used to swing further in front of the property. Now there's a ditch there. The city owns part of the parking lot, and that would be our parking lot. So my question would be, I'd be more happy to pave it to the ditch, but I don't know, because part of that's owned by the city, the way the property line runs. And so you have enough space for 4 to 5 parking spots in the front. Paved, we could pave those.
I'm going to have to ask you to move on, because I've allowed you far more time than I am supposed to. So we're going to ask that anyone else with comments to come forward, and if we have further questions for you, we'll have you come back up, okay?
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mayor, I think I have an answer on that parking question you asked.
Sure, thank
regarding
you.
that vacant area. Because it's at the lake, there are special parking provisions for the properties out there, and so it's unlawful for any person to park a vehicle in other than an established or designated parking area. and in accordance with any posted direction there, and with the instruction of any attendant. So since that's not a designated parking area, that open space, there shouldn't be parking allowed there.
That is actually a water collection area that drains to the lake. So it's not, if it's rained, it's not a good parking area.
So it looks
anyway.
better than it is.
Yes, ma'am. Most of it is, most of the time it's dry. And city
Because it's dry everywhere.
Exactly. But it is a collection area, water collection area that drains to the lake.
Thank you. Further public comment? Please come forward.
Tracy, would you please look into the fencing requirements? Or I know that the HOA, there's some restrictions as far as how far you can actually fence toward the lake itself.
Yeah, we
I
can
believe
look
it's a
at that.
35-foot restriction, so you might want to look into that.
John may know the answer to that.
So ones versus.
It would be an
That's
HOA
an
issue, right?
We gotta make sure that.
You're not allowed to block the view of your neighbors
That's
under their
correct.
rules, I
That's
believe,
correct.
yes.
Say that again, Teresa.
You're not allowed to block the view of the lake from your neighbors, so I know that the fences can't go under their rules all the way to the lake. We don't
Correct.
enforce those rules, so I'm not
But
overly
you
familiar,
could
but they
go
do have
backwards
rules.
towards the road.
Right.
That's correct.
Please.
Yeah, I'm Jerry Lancaster. My wife and I own the property at 2250 Joy Road, and we're here in opposition. I have a written handout. May I give this to everyone?
I think we received yours as one of the notes that we were just given.
This is something that you don't have because I just did it.
Oh, okay, so, all right.
I've got more. And I'm a retired court reporter from Midland County, so I'm not used to speaking in public. I'm used to writing what everybody says. But please be advised that my wife, Loretta, and I are strongly opposed to the granting of the request for approval of a short-term rental conditional use at 2274 Joy Road, San Angelo, Texas. I have been on the board of directors for the Lake Nasworthy Homeowners Association for the past several years, and I know the association has been against these short-term rentals. My wife and I expressed our opposition to this application at the Planning Commission hearing on September 18th, 2023. In addition to recognizing our opposition and questions regarding the application, the Planning Commission was unanimous in denying the application, in part because the applicant owner of the property was not interested enough to appear at the hearing. How do we contact an absentee owner if there are problems? I have considerable questions about the request for this application as to how you would contact any owner or agent if there was loud noise or excessive traffic around the property at any time, and especially late at night. Who do we contact? How will they control obnoxious activities at the house with no local presence? And we have owned our property for 9 years, and I've never met the people that own that property. It has been, ever since we've been there, it's been leased and rented on a regular, not a short-term deal. Is calling 911 our only alternative? Even if they set up some now unknown person or realtor in San Angelo as a call number, how far away are they from the lake? How accessible are they, especially on nights, weekends, and holidays, when short-term rentals would be most likely? If the owner has a local friend in San Angelo that is going to look after it, who do you call when they are out of town or on vacation or tied up for any other reason? How far are they from Joy Road? Joy Road is a very quiet, family-oriented residential street with very little traffic noise and no homes on the street that engage in loud partying and excessive drinking. A short-term rental would be completely out of place in this neighborhood and would likely result in loss of property values. To have a home on our street converted to a short-term rental unit would instantly change the complexion of this quiet, peaceful neighborhood, with the great possibility of a loud drinking party multiple nights of the week, and with no owner on site to control the people using the home on any given night. Our notice shows the operator to be Shelby in Monte with a 325 area code. Shelby in Monte appears to be a realtor that lives in the Dallas area, DBA Monte Group LLC at 4460 Boston Drive, Plano, Texas. The Central Appraisal District shows that taxes of $7,000+ were paid by Susan B. Sanders on January 6, 23. Susan B. Sanders is apparently a 68-year-old woman that lives at 408 Circle Drive, Sunrise Beach, Texas. She may also go by Ina, and has had recent addresses at Bertram, Texas, Burnet, Texas, Albuquerque, New Mexico, Antlers, Oklahoma, San Antonio, Texas, and Jacksonville, Florida. We had heard previously that they had tried to sell the property, but could not get a clear title. I have no idea if that's true or not. I am very concerned that there will be many late-night noisy parties with no owner-operator living anywhere nearby to contact. The only alternative will be to call 911 and make a formal complaint, which would result in multiple trips to the police department or municipal court. This is not the way I ever envisioned owning property on Joy Road. I don't see how we could get any results by calling Shelby Monte in Dallas or 68-year-old Susan B. Sanders wherever she lives. The property at 2274 Joy Road currently has no parking other than parking for a couple of cars on the grass in front with a small driveway to get onto the grass. I understand they will be required to asphalt or concrete the entire grassy area if this application is approved. If approved, even with the asphalt or concrete parking, there is no doubt that it will result in cars and boat trailers parked on the street or across the street on the city-owned grass park, which part of it stands water during heavy rains. Short-term rental units should not be allowed on residential streets unless the owner-operator assures you that they will be living in the home or next door to the home at all times, that they assure you that no one will be allowed to rent a room or be there unless they are present and will be responsible for any extra loud music and the usual noise and activities that go along with short-term rental units. I respectfully urge you to deny the application for a short-term rental at 2274 Joy Road. Lake Nasworthy is a wonderful asset to the city of San Angelo. If you begin approving short-term rental units here at the lake, this wonderful city asset will begin to decrease in value to anyone planning to live or spend leisure time at the lake. Currently, I believe the values of lakefront property are considerably higher than similar properties elsewhere in San Angelo. Short-term rentals could reverse this trend in property values.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, Tom.
Mr. Lancaster, before you leave the stand, are you a permanent resident of San Angelo?
Our permanent residence is in Midland. We plan to move to this property hopefully within the next 1 or 2 years. What's keeping us in Midland right now is my mother is 96 years old, still trying to live in her own home, and so we're trying to stay in Midland for the next year or so. But we will be permanent residents here.
On this map, which house is yours? Touch the screen.
Okay. Ours is 2250. I'm not sure. As you come down Picnic Road, you make a gentle left, and ours is right there, I believe.
Okay. Are you one of the adjacent properties? You're not?
We're not directly next door, no.
Okay, that's all I need to know. Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Lancaster.
Yes, it seems as though you have a problem with accessibility to the owner, and he indicates he's 12 minutes away.
And I had no clue.
Okay.
You can't tell that when you look, go to the Central Appraisal District, and I couldn't figure out anybody except the two people I mentioned.
Well, I think that's an important point, and I'm wondering if we can require the accessibility as, or the inability to get in touch with the owner as a complaint that's filed against the owner, if, you know, as a part of the licensing process. I don't know if we can or can't.
We already do. The license requires a designation of an operator who must reside in Tom Green County and furnish a telephone number for the operator. The information shall be furnished in the notice to owners of real property, and if the information changes, the operator shall mail the notice of a new contact information to owners of property within 200 feet of the lot lines. So it is a requirement of the license that everybody knows who the operator is, and then if that changes, they get new notice.
And
Does that require them to have essentially, they're on the watch during times when that home is occupied?
Well, they need to reside in Tom Green County. We try not to impose too much on what people do while they're residing here, but they have to be a resident.
And this shows the operator to be Shelby in Monte, that appears to be a realtor in Dallas living in Plano.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Lancaster. Tommy?
Teresa, would you reiterate for my benefit the fencing, either allowances or disallowances at the lake?
There are requirements within the Lake Nasworthy Homeowners Association rules. Those aren't rules that we're responsible for, so I don't have a copy of those to read specifically, but I know generally that the rules state that they can't erect fences that would block a neighbor's view of the lake.
Okay.
And I can address that as well.
If you'll come forward.
Okay, thank you. My name is Ken Taylor, 2810 Red Bluff Road, and I am the Lake Nasworthy HOA current president. I've been to watch several of these hearings over requested short-term rentals. The fencing requirement is you cannot build a privacy fence within 75 feet of the water. And this house, according to the scale, is within 75 feet of the water. So that fence that would be required between the two properties is not permitted by our restrictions. So
Would you go put that picture of the property back up, please?
This one?
No, the real one of the property. Yeah, the house by itself. So the question mark, and I'm looking at this, is where would 75 feet from the water be on this property?
well, from the overhead picture, as the owner stated, that's a 60-foot deep house. So using that 60 feet as a scale, that house is within 60 feet of the water. So you could not put a privacy fence from the back of that house to the water, which is the area in question.
But you could from the back of the house to the street, is that what we're saying? I'm just for
No,
clarification.
it would be somewhere on the side of the house to the street, but that still would not allow for a block between their backyard and the front yard of the neighboring house. So that area in question would still remain open. You could do a chain link fence 4 foot or lower, but you could not do a privacy fence, which appears to be the concern there.
There is a chain link fence between.
Correct.
That
But
exists now?
I'm not aware of what's there now. What I'm saying is that the question is a block or a privacy between those two properties, and our restrictions do not allow that to be in place. If that clarifies the fencing question, I don't know. I want to question, it was stated that other than inspections, this house meets all the requirements for a short-term rental application. Are we still using the 30-foot rule on the streets? Because that is not a 30-foot street.
No, there's a court ruling that says we are not allowed to do that.
So that has been changed in the ordinance at this time?
It doesn't matter if it's changed in the ordinance. If we try to enforce it, it will be held by courts to be unenforceable.
Okay,
So
well
it's
then-
still in the ordinance. That's one of the updates we're working on, but it is not allowed.
Okay, that is being worked on then?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that clarity. As you noticed in the other picture with the stars, there are plenty of short-term rentals available. Adding additional ones I don't see as a benefit to our neighborhoods. Obviously, the Planning Commission voted this down 6-0. That looks pretty unanimous. I would think that there's pretty obvious reason why this one was denied. That same day, they did approve a different one, which was the other yellow star on Red Bluff. So we do have more short-term rentals coming online. at the lake, so I don't feel a need for this one. The parking is a huge question. As was pointed out, the parking across the street is not a legal parking area, so there's not room for the parking there. With respect to the property owners talking about this being an option for them to pay down on their high taxes and expenses, with respect to everyone else in the neighborhood, they all pay those same property taxes and they all have those same expenses, and they're not leasing out their homes and putting that inconvenience on their neighbors as an object or a tool to pay their expenses. I noticed you did ask about Mr. Lancaster's residence. I can say that he has been a board member of ours. He makes every meeting when he comes to town. He is here for a week to 10 days at a time. So even though he's not a local occupant, he's very accessible and he is very much part of our lake community. So unless y'all have any questions for me, that was all I wanted to state today.
Any questions from council? Yes, Larry?
Pertaining to the privacy fence, although you have a rule against it, can a variance be requested?
A variance could be requested. I'm just clarifying what our rules are. So, okay. Thank you.
Okay. If further public comment? Seeing none, at this point, do I have a motion of any sort on this property?
Mayor,
Tommy?
there may be appropriate places at the lake, and the Planning Commission, if they decide yes, then no, we never see those. They don't come to us. But due to the parking and just the very close proximity of these houses one to another, the inability of a privacy fence, and again, as I stated, the parking, I'm going to make a motion to uphold the Planning Commission's denial of this.
There is a motion to deny approval of this short-term rental. Do I have a second?
Second.
And a second by Karen Hesse-Smith. Further public comment? Yes, sir. Can I do that because it's now after the motion? Go ahead. Limit it to 3 minutes, please.
Yes, ma'am. We can't help where the property is located. I mean, and if we can't put up a privacy fence, which we would be more than willing to put up, and I said we will have adequate parking for the number of guests that we allow in this property, and we're not allowing it for parties, no bachelorette parties, none of those things. And so I hope you reconsider and allow a small business, which my family already owns small businesses in this town, and to be a place where people can find refuge if they're coming to Shannon for a treatment. We've already seen people that want to rent a place at the lake while they're going through treatments or visiting family at ASU or Goodfellow. And we want to be an asset to the town, not detrimental. We'll figure out all of the parking issues. We'll do all of those things because we have enough spaces for the people that would be allowed to stay on the property. They won't be allowed to have parties, so there's not going to be excessive drinking and parties. And we have a good neighbor policy that allows and has the rule that states you have to be quiet between 10 p.m. and 8 a.m. We don't even allow smoking on the property. And we are local. My daughter is a local person. She happens to live in Plano, but she owns other properties here in town that we use for rentals, for other things. And so, and I'm accessible. I'm here. I'll be retiring in January. And if I'm not here, my son-in-law and daughter Courtney, who own the local business, will be here. We'll always have someone local to answer any questions. And as I said, I'll give my personal phone number and email to anyone on that street that has a problem because we want to know it. We've spent a lot of money on this property and renovations for it to be a luxury rental.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any further public comment?
I do want to clarify on Larry's
Your name
question.
again, please.
I'm sorry, Ken Taylor, 2810 Red Bluff. To clarify on your question about could there be a request for a variance, I was a former member of the Architecture Committee. According to state law, you can no longer be on the Architecture Committee as a board member, so I'm no longer part of that. But I can tell you that from years past, I am aware of 0 approvals for a privacy fence within 75 feet. That one is a variance that our board, as far as I know of, going back 10 years, has never allowed. So yes, it's possible to ask for it, but if it's very low probability that that would happen. Thank you.
Just a question for council. No, you're okay, dear. So if this board, and I'm just doing an if, so this isn't what I'm proposing, but if we said that one more condition would be putting in a privacy fence based off of does this council, if they require that, supersede a homeowners association which doesn't allow it?
No, their rules would supersede ours.
So just to be clear on that. Okay, further public comment?
I think I misunderstood Larry's question earlier. We do require them to have a local person. We do require them to post that internally to the house or whatever, but we don't have any requirement that they answer their phone within a certain amount of time, if you're asking. Okay.
That would be hard to. Okay, with that, then we will take a vote. I'll start with Tommy.
Based on my motion,
I know.
I am wanting to deny the short-term rental. So my motion was to uphold the Planning Commission's denial. So that would be a yes vote on my part.
Tom?
I'm a yes.
Harry?
Yes.
Larry?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Lucy?
No.
Mayor Gunter? Yes. So the denial has been upheld of a vote of 6-1. Thank you very much. We will now move into closed session, executive session under the provision of Government Code Title 5, Open Government Ethics, Subtitle A, Open
Mayor?
Government Chapter 55. What?
Can I interrupt you before you read all that? We are not going to discuss that Mark III issue today. We're going to move that to the next meeting.
Now what?
We're not going to discuss the second issue on executive session. We're going to move
okay.
that to the next
So
meeting.
executive session under the provision of Government Code Title 5, Open Government Ethics, Subtitle A, Open Government Chapter 551, Open Meetings, Subchapter D, exceptions to requirement that meetings be open under the following sections. Section A, 551.087, Business Prospect Negotiations regarding 1, Project BESS, 2, Technology Tower, 3, Project Braided Main, and 4, Project Reserve. At this point, and 5, Project Scatter, and then 6, Project Aquatex. With that, we are adjourned to our closed session. We will return upon completion of those conversations. Call this meeting back to order at 11:14 a.m. We are back from closed session, of which there are no announcements to be made following the closed session. So we will move on to item B, and that of 8B. Consider approving various board nominations. The Airport Advisory Board, Mark Clark, SMD 3 to a second term. Does he know how to fly?
I don't know if Mark does. I might not ride with Mark, okay? I might not ride with Mark. He's kind of sketchy.
Yeah.
Great guy.
To a second term. And then Paul Rothbund, I probably mispronounced that, SMD 4 to first term, both ending October 2025. And then the Tax Increment Reinvestment Zone Board, Carlos Rodriguez, SMD 5 to first term ending July 2025. We can approve those under one motion, or should you want to separate them, let me know. Otherwise, I would want a motion for approval of 8B in total.
In total, so moved.
Second. I've got everybody in support with a second, so that
Everybody's
must be
second
good.
except Daniel.
All those in favor say aye, please.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. Announcements and consideration of future agenda items. There will not be any at this point, so a motion for adjournment.
Move
if
we
could.
adjourn.
So moved, seconded,
Second,
done,
third.
voted on. Motion
Aye.
passes 6-0. Thank you all.
Heather, I'd like to see how you document that.